those vain and impetuous. All who have visited me in the past have been destroyed, regardless of their allegiance.
Hello, my name is Kate and I'm gonna tell you the story of the oldest Lich in D&D. Larloch is the oldest lone Lich in Faerun, who lives over 2100 years. He is called the Shadow King as he rules all of Warlock Crypt, keeping quite a low profile. Yet everyone around knows about him and fears him. He is one of the oldest non-draconic beings in Faerun and one of the most powerful mages with lots of ancient artifacts and minions under his control. But how did he have survived that long and became like that? Let's figure it out. Larloch was born over 2100 years ago in 628 before Dale Reckoning, if counting to the present. He was a Netheril male with high magic potential. The childhood of Larloch is unknown, but it can be assumed that he was born in one of the floating cities and trained in magic arts without relying on the Netheril scrolls, which were lost or stolen by the 664. When Larloch matured, he, the Netheril Arcanist, decided to step to archwizard title. In order to do that, the wizard needed to prove its power by creating a Mythalar, a magical item of tremendous power which helped the Arcanist to raise the Netheril city enclave to the air. Larloch succeeded in the creation of Mythalar and rose Jiksidur enclave and proclaimed himself Sorcerrer King. During his rulership, he strengthened his position of power and started to collect various powerful magical artifacts that would work outside the effect of Mythalar. One of those items was Death's Moon Orb, which allowed to cast mind control, read thoughts and spy on the enemies through scrying. Larloch used this orb to control his court members, read their thoughts and spy on enemies to stay 2 steps ahead of them. In the year 461 before Dale Reckoning, Netheril has faced one of its most nemesis in the face of Faerun, malevolent, evil, horrific, cone-shaped creatures that were attracted to raw magic. They casted magic drain spells that sucked all magic energy from Netherils, their Mythalars and surrounding areas. Few years later, Larloch and other sorcerers became aware of Faerun doings. Some of them, including Larloch, decided to undergo Lich transformation, which some kind of protected them from Faerun spells, leeching the life force from the magic wielders. In the year 339 before Dale Reckoning, Larloch had his city hovering over the borders of Narfell and Raumtar, regions of rival empires he was observing and spying on. During his work, contingency spell warned him that Jiksidur was soon to be doomed. Larloch was a Lich of an extreme good nature, so instead of warning everyone about the inevitable demise, he just mounted his dragon and left off to the sunset, leaving everyone to die. Quite soon later this year, Karsus caused an event which is known as Karsus Folly. All Netheril cities' Mythalars lost their magic powers and all Netheril enclaves crashed to the ground, killing everyone dwelling there. Now the ruins of Jiksidur form a sole mountain called Hark's Finger, and who knows what Netheril's riches lies in the depths of it. Having collected many magical items and artifacts prior to the Mythalar era, Larloch survived and was as powerful as before. He was one of the last Arcanist king left alive. Some months after the fall, Larloch discovered the ruins of Orbidal, the enclave ruled by his arch-rival Raugilat the Ageless, who presumably transformed himself in the Lich a bit later than Larloch. Though he is not considered the oldest one, he is still very old too. Larloch claimed the city as his own and constructed himself a crypt out of the broken towers, Larloch Crypt, whose name was later naturally changed to Warlock Crypt by locals. The soaring towers of this isolated walled castle can be seen from afar, sweeping up like menacing black-nailed talons reaching into the sky. When settled, the Lich dwelled deeper, fully exploring the ruins for survivors and magical artifacts. After many years, he discovered Raugilat, who has been trapped in a subterranean pocket. 2 Liches confronted each other, and Larloch, having more stable magical items and high ground, came victorious. He enslaved Raugilat, who became the first out of many Liches enslaved by Larloch. Larloch ruled Warlock Crypt, keeping a very low profile. He was mostly interested in experiments with unlife and gathering magical artifacts rather than conquest. He sent his servants out to hunt for living creatures and travelers for his further experiments. Wallo once commented on the Warlock's Crypt appearance in his studies.
Its luminous waters cast an eerie, flickering glow over the towers by night, railings bridge that links the garden walls and the lower levels of the towers. Skeletal giant bats, steeds and strange creatures sally forth from them to attack travelers who venture too near, since Larloch is interested in gaining living humans for use in his experiments in undeaths and in seizing all magic he can find. This is not a place I recommend travelers even venture within sight of.
Larloch accumulated a lot of magical wealth through the years. He had about 2000 Eon stones circling his head, boosting his magical powers and reflexes. According to sources, previously Eon stones didn't require any attunement, so the price of some would reach about 100,000 gold. And the total wealth accumulated by Larloch through the years would equal about 3 million gold. No wonder there were lots of organizations and greedy adventurers who tried to get their hands on all of these artifacts. Not only greedy adventurers tried their luck in Warlock's Crypt. It is said that in 1366, after the Reckoning, Red Wizards of Tay also entered the lair of the Lich and all perished there except for Ssazz, Lich and Zulkir of Necromancy. What Ssazz saw was a Lich of an extreme age. Larloch's body was greatly decayed, with his flesh entirely gone and leaving only his white bone skeleton. In his empty eye sockets were 2 orbs of red light. 24 Eon stones formed a kind of a rainbow nymph above his head. On occasion, streaks of emerald energy moved on his body. They were a side effect of his defensive curses. 2 Liches came to some sort of alliance. Larloch provided Ssazz with powerful magical items, including own Death Moon Orb, and traded Tarkasil Seed, which could completely bind to the will of the owner any creature who sat on it. In exchange of those generous gifts, Ssazz returned Larloch several magical items he found in the ruins of Jiksidur, including the Netheril Mantle, which the user could use to cast many various spells at will. Apart from Tay, 4 years later in 1370, a Manshoon clone also traded spells with Larloch in exchange for Sanctuary. Larloch enslaved different kind of undead. After Raugelas, he continued to enslave Liches, who were also Netheril Arcanists in the past. In some sources, it is said that he had about 2000 minions under his command. In 1374, he decided to conduct an experiment and gave all of his Liches free will. Being hungry for raw magic, they rushed towards Drannor, who was shining with it. After the defeat, Larloch simply apologized to the Drannor Knights, saying that he was just an observer and this was just an experiment and he didn't order anything to the Liches at all. After seeing the magic of Drannor, Larloch decided to store his magic powers so he can use it later in times of need. He started to work with Imprisoners, a secret society who helped him to trap various spirits on magic items. Those items would be called Blue Flame. Some believed that these magic items could restore a god from undeath if used properly. Even after the Drannor attack, Larloch still possessed lots of servants at his disposal, who looked for magical artifacts for him or punished those Liches who served him before. One of those servants was Hexat, a vampire who can be met in Baldur's Gate 2 video game. The servant was looking for several magical artifacts for the Lich. These were the Cask of Imprisonment, the Claw of the Black Leopard, and the Shroud of the Unproved. Having observed and survived 2 deaths of Goddess of Magic, Larloch cares and values a lot the integrity of the Vive and the goddess' well-being. For this recognition and devotion, Mystra granted Larloch much freedom in his researches of spells and magic, provides sometimes with magical artifacts, and closes her eyes on lots of questionable Larloch's deeds. In 1487, following Karsus' footsteps, Larloch tried to become a new deity of magic by absorbing mythal of Drannor. However, he was stopped by Elminster and Srinshi, who was one of the founders of the mythal. Is Larloch a strong character, you may ask? Well, from the lore perspective, he's the eldest being apart from the dragons being alive. He also has lots of instants roaming around his head, boosting his defenses and magical powers. He has lots of magical artifacts. He's seen everything, he knows everything, and he's prepared for anything. So this is kind of guy I would avoid at all costs. I found his stats in Lords of Darkness, and there he is a Lich of level 20, with challenge rating 34, with lots of HP, lots of magical items and spell slots, and also improved counterspell for casters, and also permanent paralysis if he hits you. And also, actually, it is said that if Larloch knows that you are coming for him, then DM has a right to add any kind of magical item to his disposal. But even without it, he's very OP. This is where the Larloch story ends. I didn't find any sources where it says whether he's dead or still alive, but I assume that he's still alive because he's a very powerful and very cunning and experienced being in the universe. So probably he's still doing his researches, keeping a low profile and looking after Mystra and a Weave, and maybe we will see him later in other adventures where he will be either our unwanted ally or our foe. But I would definitely run from this encounter by any means. Anyway, if you like the lore, please press like and subscribe button and tell me in the comments below who else you would like to hear about. And see you next time.